February 14th, 2026. Hello, I am John Michael Chambers, and welcome back to Bosi Briefs. And thank you for joining us. This program publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi weighs in on the current events. Please share these episodes and subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. And be sure to follow me on my Rumble channel as well. Ricardo will be joining us in just a moment. First, this from Guardian, Daniel R. The Clintons, Hillary's emails, and the Wiener laptop as ultimate life insurance. The deepest darkness is finally coming into the light. Patriots, hold on to your seats because the nuclear payload just detonated. That's right. Anthony Weiner's laptop wasn't just some pervert's hard drive. It was the life insurance policy that kept the entire Clinton crime syndicate untouchable for decades. That infamous folder labeled life insurance, remember that? It contained the real dirt, thousands upon thousands of emails, videos, and files that exposed the full scope of the Clinton Foundation's pay-to-play empire, child trafficking networks, satanic rituals, and the blood-soaked secrets tying straight to Epstein's Island and the global elite pedophile ring. Back in 2016, you may recall, when the New York Police Department seized Weiner's devices during his underage sexting probe, they didn't just find Uma Abedin's emails to Hillary. They uncovered a digital vault of absolute horror. We're talking about classified documents, deleted server backups, evidence of adrenochrome harvesting, ritual abuse footage, and direct links to the Pizzagate nightmare that the fake news absolutely buried and discredited. The New York NYPD chiefs anonymously screamed that if the FBI and the DOJ didn't act fast on indictments, they'd go public with everything. Comey reopened the email case right before the election to try and contain the blast, but it was too late. The damage was done. Okay, so fast forward to today, 2026. The White Hats have full, I did say full, control. Military intelligence has mirrored every byte from that laptop, cross-referenced it with Epstein's black book, Ghislaine's flight logs, and the rescued victims' testimonies and underground facilities. That, quote, life insurance wasn't protecting Weiner. It was blackmail insurance for the Clintons to keep their puppets in line. Bill and Hillary thought they could murder witnesses, bleach servers, and hammer devices to cover their tracks. But God had other plans. So the storm is raging right now. We are the storm. And we're talking treason, crimes against humanity, child endangerment on a massive scale, stuff that makes Watergate look like a parking ticket. The laptop held proof of payoffs to silence victims, rigged elections, bioweapon funding through the foundation, and yes, the snuff level depravity that Q warned us about many years ago. And they laughed when we said, trust the plan. They mocked when we dropped, these people are sick. But the laptop never lied. It is the smoking gun that ties the whole cabal together. Clintons, Obamas, Bushes, Soros, puppets, all terrified now because the veil is torn. No more running, no more fake suicides, no more 2 bullets to the back of the head cover stories. We have it all. We caught them all. And nothing can stop what's coming. And what's coming is happening next week. Clinton's front and center. Yes, the storm is upon us, and we are that storm. All right, thank you for joining us today. For those just coming aboard, who is Ricardo Bosi? Former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel who served 24 years in the Australian Army. He's the national leader of Australia One Party. Please welcome back Ricardo Bosi.
John, good morning, good evening. How are you? Good to be here. Thank you for your kind invitation.
You bet. Thank you, sir, for joining me every other Saturday morning as we record. And again, folks, this publishes every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And thank you, everyone, for sharing it far and wide. A lot of people are, because the information and insights that Ricardo brings to us on the topics that we comb through every other week are of vital importance to helping people make sense of all this madness. And to that point, we're going to start off a little slowly, dripping around here and some fun things I've observed, Ricardo, and then we'll get into some red meat. And you can certainly bring us any way you choose, of course. Let's begin with I think it was the Turning Point USA event that took place during the freak show at the rigged NFL thing, and you know, I caught a little clip on social media, you know, with the announcement in the stadium. You know, these guys were drumming the drums, da, 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 and they said, the military district of Washington is playing the drums for you. Military district of Washington. Interesting messaging. What say you, sir?
Yeah, it's a wonderful com. And the term military district is not unusual to people in the military. Even Australia, not sure it's been out now for a while in terms of the military sense, but the Australian states mirrored military districts. So, for example, New South Wales, our most populous state, is the second military district. Victoria, south of us, the third military district. And so the entire country actually had this overlapping organizational plan. It was used for internal defense matters, more or less, but its origin was more than that. It was a military district run by military governors. And so that term very specifically used at the show to again to introduce in a very gentle way this concept. There are things other than your local council, your local government, and other people are actually running the show. So it was, yeah, as you say, very pointed, very specifically, not unusual to us, but
Yes.
let's say they're sowing the seed into the minds of the civilians.
Yes. Well, I found it interesting. Of course, the whole concept that they did that at the same time the Super Bowl was doing their thing, that in and of itself is interesting. You can really see the landscape changing. You know, Hollywood, you've got Mel Gibson and many others now uh, producing independent films. I basically, if you fast forward, I don't know, pick a number, 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, I don't know. But I have you weigh in on this. I see the Hollywood machine slowly but surely being replicated somewhere else with, or certainly in another fashion by good people in Hollywood that stepped away, like Jim Caviezel and Mel Gibson and many others. And I also see the same thing taking place in the music industry. We can now see a completely drawn line in the sand, if you will. You've got these people over here with their demonic shows, the entertainment folks, and then you've got over here, you know, country America, you know, apple pie and you know, salute the flag music. I think if you fast forward, that the other side goes away, and a rebirth through the arts, be it film, music,
Yep.
advertising, clothing design, everything is going to change. What you know, sort of the way Tavistock controlled cultures through acts and things they did. We seem to be doing that now, slowly but surely. Am I a little too optimistic?
No, it's the democratization of dot 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 everything. That's the beauty of what we're going through. And we were talking before the show about the National Enquirer. Um,
Mhm.
it's actually extraordinary. And I'll give you a personal example. If you compare the nonsense that is the Super Bowl, I mean, it used to be about football, and now it is just
Mhm.
a self-indulgent nonsense, and everybody knows that. And they actually had to run a cheering track behind Bad Bunny during the show because the live feed showed silence from the crowd when he got out and was yelling and screaming. But the one that
Mm.
was on TV, they had to actually put in the cheering track to create that concept of social proof. If they're cheering, they must love it. The crowd there couldn't care less about Bad Bunny. They didn't cheer. There was a bit of a boo and a hiss there and there, but he was performing to a completely unimpressed crowd. They were there to watch football, and which we know is rigged as well, and that's going to change. And
Mhm.
but the image given to the world was, oh, look, everybody's on board with this nonsense, which they're not. it's just over the top when someone's trying too hard, and we know that it's embarrassing, it's degrading. You're begging your girlfriend, please take me back, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole feel to this. The real
Mhm.
America never went anywhere, and I agree with you. They're there patiently tolerating nonsense so they can get to the good stuff. And people are being told that, well, no, that they love the nonsense and the good stuff's no good. No, no, no. So it's still there, and it's an extraordinary statement of the power of the human spirit and the human soul to withstand such egregious demoralization and yet still hang on to what is good and wholesome. And that's what we all of us
Yes.
do. Certainly in the West, with our Western Christian history, we hang on to all that is good despite the storm of depravity swirling around us. I've used the analogy before. I think it was David Icke that used it. Evil's like the hand holding the beach ball under the water. And the moment that hand loses its grip on the beach ball flies to the surface. It's hard to keep down. That's why they have to
Mm.
work so hard to keep us down. And all we have to do is pray, and we're good for the next 24 hours. And so that natural goodness that resides in most human souls, not all, but most human souls, is there ready to bob back up again. Um, and so this reformation, and in a real sense, it'll be called the Reformation, and the democratization, all the tools they use to control us are now in our hands. And again, this personal example, most music is garbage. I grew up like most people listening to the music. The tunes were catchy. I didn't really pay attention to the words much. And then as the years go by, I listened to the golden oldies. That's how old I am now. All the big rock tunes are now golden oldies. And I listen to the words, and it's complete nonsense, trash, and in some cases destructive. And so what I started doing was, by accident, I discovered this AI music website. You put in the words, you can put in your own words or just put in a couple of themes, hit the button, it'll write a song for you, and you can choose what music you've got to it. And I've created this little list of songs based on ideas I like, and then
Mm.
I'll either write the song complete with chorus, verses, bridges, the lot, and they put music to it, and I can pick the one I like best, or I'll just put the themes in, and I'll play that. I'm in the kitchen cooking away, listening to empowering great tunes, because it's what I want. And this is what's going to happen. Instead of having a single point of focus, a single point of control, the news, the entertainment, the sport, all that nonsense. No, no, no. That's going to change. And all of a sudden, we don't care anymore. Now, are we going to have national sporting competitions? Yeah, of course we will. Are we going to have the self-indulgent Olympic Games? Yeah, maybe less so. And certainly the nonsense of it. So you can throw a ball really far. Well done. You can run fast. Terrific. That's good for you. That's the best way. That and twerking are our accomplishments as a species. We can run fast, and we give the guy that can run 100 meters quicker than anybody else, plaudits beyond recognition. And then we twerk on the end, and that's human achievement. No, that's going to change only because this democratization of values, not of the change of the values, but the way we can express those values and hold those values are in our hands now instead of in the hands of Hollywood or in the hands of the NFL committee. Or you get my drift. This is just extraordinary, an extraordinary opportunity for humans to decide for ourselves. I like a song about people making up their own mind. I like a song about liberty, justice. And if I can put a few catchy tunes in, great. If I can't, I'll get the machine to do it, and then I'll sit there and rock away. So instead of listening to what nonsense and being brainwashed by trash, which is it is, they're just dirtbags singing trash. I can listen to that. My family can listen to it, and we can brainwash ourselves with good stuff instead of bad stuff. And so it's a remarkable moment in time. Now, most people won't have a hold of this just yet, but as more information floods into our heads from multiple sources, we have to start applying critical thinking. Like, let's look at both sides, or three sides, or four sides to an argument, and decide where I live. This is all going to happen slowly. It's happening now with the flood of uh, releases, the Epstein files, and other things. People are overwhelmed. That's part of the process, and we will talk about that later. But yeah, the democratization of everything is a powerful step for the next few years, where instead of having this is in fashion this year, and if you're wearing last year's fashion, you're a joke. No, not anymore. It'll be, I feel like wearing a thin tie, a fat tie, wide lapels, narrow lapels, short skirt, long skirt, as a silly metaphor being fashion. It doesn't matter. Express yourself. And this is now going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. It's a great moment in human liberation.
Yeah. Wow. What a great analysis. I took a couple of notes of feedback. Uh, Going back a bit, when you talked about the true character of we as a species, people are basically good. And again, not all of us, as you've indicated, but the majority of us the world over. And I think that with the help we're getting, of course, from above, God, and then the military, the White Hats, and President Trump, and this whole alliance, we the people finally have some support, and because we are really grounded pretty strongly in right from wrong, instinctively, I that's all of that to me is the reason we can say nothing will stop what's coming because that level of momentum is toppled the darker forces, in my view, right now. And we're very close to changing the world as we know it. And thank goodness for that. And you mentioned democratization of everything or the decentralization of everything. That is exactly what's happening. And it's a good thing. You know, while we're talking about entertainment, let me touch on this observation, have you weigh in on it. Coincidence? That'd be the question I'll ask. So here we go. Ask yourself why we got movies coming out right now, this period of time, about Melania, Elvis Presley, Nuremberg trial movie with Russell Crowe, Michael Jackson, good friend of President Melania, JFK Jr., and Carolyn Bassett's story. All of these things are coming out and out right now. Coincidence? What do you think?
No, absolutely not. This is all part of the plan. As I said, the good guerrilla army is using the weapons that the conventional enemy used, and they're now filling our heads with good things. Just because Hollywood made it didn't
Yes.
make it great. But I'm not sure if it's true or not. But Stalin said, if I controlled, it was alleged that Joseph Stalin, Soviet leader um, of the United Socialist Soviet Republic, said that if he controlled Hollywood, he controlled the world. Well,
Mm.
he was just a little puppet. He was no great leader. He was just a puppet like everybody else. And the bad guys did control the world through Hollywood. And now that's being turned around. But as we know, we've got good people producing good stories. We've got previously bad people who have been turned, but whose legacy is of sufficient value to the White Hats to keep it alive. Now, the actual individual is being charged, tried, found guilty, and executed. There's a dummy, there's a double, a clone. Take your pick, but the legacy lives on because it is of more use to the White Hats to use that to raise the human spirit than to smash people, because there's going to be enough out there that's going to break some hearts. So they needed to keep a few
Mhm.
people, a few ideas alive, because they were inspirational. I won't give any names personally, but the classic underdog story. Excuse me, the classic underdog story that it was fictional story, and underdog stories are so popular, and yet it inspired real people to make real achievements, and that's powerful. It's extraordinarily powerful. The power
Mhm.
of storytelling, where the listener willingly suspends their disbelief. They say, "Yeah, I know it's nonsense, but look, he flew to the moon on gossamer wings. Wow, it's a metaphor." And it allows us to believe that we can achieve what we can achieve. And I'm acutely aware of that. I used to lap this stuff up. Hollywood created their worst enemy, me, because I was
Hmm.
morally set very well as a young boy. And so when I watched any story, my morals were there. That they were in place. They were immovable, for whatever reason. Christ was my biggest hero when I was 8, 9 years of age. So I'd watch a crappy film, but I'd always eke out of it the moral message, and learn not to sell the soul, but to withstand all sorts of egregious pain for a greater good. And so these movies, it's extraordinarily powerful. It really is. Um, I don't like the idea of the noble lie, you know, telling people utter falsehoods simply because they're too stupid to accept the truth. But a story, man, it's fantastic. In fact, the word is a bit of, I love words. And I teach my daughters these words, and I said to them, here's something you can say to somebody that might be lying to you. My goodness me, what a wonderful fabulist you are. There's nothing better than your mendacity. both what you're basically saying is you're a liar. You lie and you lie. But the word fabulist, fable, to tell a fable, a fabulist, to tell a story, that's not quite true, but you can do it and turn it around to have a disproportionately salutary effect on the souls of the listeners, and they leave better off for having heard the story. And it doesn't have to be real. In fact, I think it was Socrates in commenting on Greek theatre, uh, a touch, and this is a paraphrase, a touch of the mystical, an unexplained mystical event, is more powerful for the human soul than a logical yet highly coincidental event, like the phone rings just in time to distract somebody from looking at a news article on the TV so they don't know what's going on next. So that's you sort of go, okay, maybe, maybe not. Coincidences are unattractive to the human mind when they're in that storytelling mode. When they're in that storytelling mode, a touch of the mystical really grabs their attention. There's a simple reason for that, because we're spiritual beings, and it's a rarely acknowledged part of our lives. That spiritual moment, that little voice you hear, you turn your head left instead of right, you see something special, but because there's a guardian angel, or whatever term you want to use, but a guardian angel there whispering in your ear to do the right thing, not the wrong thing. So it's a really fantastic way to get into people's heads. The Hollywood, the story, the movies that are coming out are no coincidence. If you have a look at what's being pumped out, particularly by the independent producers like Amazon and Apple and the rest of them, what you can, I was watching the other day, I was scanning the movies to see what is coming out. And it's like somebody grabbed them by the scruff of the neck and said, right, you are going to use your money to sell a completely different message. And these are all, again, dirtbags, which is a really polite way of saying that something nasty about the Hollywood set. But all of a sudden, they're now singing the praises of a different ideal. And once again, it's using the familiar faces, whom people trust, to sell a completely different message. And so the fact on top of that, so that's the cake, and then the cream on top of the cake are things like the Melania show, and very obvious messages from very obviously good people as well. And it's turning that great mass of humanity that doesn't want to shift, just gently swinging them around by having them suspend their disbelief and seed a new story into their souls.
As always, that's exactly what's going on at a pretty deep level as you've analyzed. It reminds me of Garth Brooks, once very famous country, all American Garth Brooks, country artist and, married man, children, everything, sold out arenas all over the world. And then, of course, his career plummeted when we discovered his lack of patriotism and what side of the fence he sat on. And I ran across a post the other day on social media where, because Bruce Springsteen has joined the ranks. He's imploded his career after all these years. And the meme or something said something like, looks like Bruce Springsteen Garthed himself. I find that fun. So they've really, yeah. Uh, it's a big shift that's taking place, and we have always been a silent majority for the reasons, not just America. We're talking about human beings all over the world on a cellular and spiritual level. In the heart of hearts, as you said earlier, we're basically good. Not all of us. There's probably, I don't know, pick a number, 5% of really evil and destructive people, and then the other 25% are so grossly affected by it that they're getting in our way, and the rest of us are cleaning up the slop. But we are basically good, and that goodness is coming to speak loud and clear. And that leads me to female pedos. Do we have an image to my producer? Let's take a look. Pedos don't just come in one gender. We have some of these women here on the screen. We see Madonna, Oprah Winfrey, Miley Cyrus. I call her Lady Boy Gaga, Lady Gaga. You got Christy Teigen, or Teigen, whatever her name is, and some of the stuff she put on Twitter is just off the charts. And I understand it was like 40,000 of these tweets. She deleted them a long time ago. What people don't understand is nothing's ever deleted. It's forever. And that stuff's been surfacing in the Epstein files, some of the unbelievable things she said about young girls. And then you've got Hillary Clinton, Kathy Griffin, perhaps also a man. And then you have Whoopi Goldberg, who I loved. Whoopi Goldberg in the movie The Ghost. Phenomenal. What happened to that person, right? I mean, look at what this woman is. But anyway, pedophiles come in both genders, and it's needs to be addressed. And I'm just reiterating what's already been shown to the public through Epstein files and other drops. Any quick comments about this subject, Ricardo?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of things here. Orson Welles, and I don't like him much. I think he's a pompous ass. But Orson Welles made an observation once that actors are the third gender. They're not male nor female. They're the third gender. And I think what he meant by that was they have no rock solid sense of identity. They can become anything because that's their job. Now, I've done amateur theatre and nothing. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? L'amour à toi. There's a Giancarlo Menotti operetta. A whole bunch of different shows. And I never liked playing a morally reprehensible individual who never faced the consequences of his actions. Does that make sense? Because there was an unwritten rule back in the Hollywood days, early in the days, that if a criminal behaved in a criminal way on screen, it was understood that consequences of those actions should be displayed to the public before the end of the movie. Otherwise, the message is crime pays.
Right.
And that slowly slipped away. You'd have the criminal activity, which is necessary. You've got to show, as C.S. Lewis said, the great Christian apologist, you've got to show children, tell children the stories of cruel tyrants, because they're going to meet them in the real world, and we need to build brave knights to defeat those tyrants. So there's nothing wrong with a criminal character in a film. But unless the consequences of those actions are shown on screen in that movie, then what you're doing is you're saying that crime pays. Now, this is how pathetic it gets, and forgive the language here, but I'm going to quote a line out of I can't remember the name of the movie. It was a Quentin Tarantino film starring George Clooney, and they're despicable, awful characters. They really are. And at the end of the film, he's a bad man, and he's driving off. There's a 14-year-old girl in the back, and she wanted to come with him. And he had no redeeming qualities. And I do apologize for the language, but this is what now passes for morality. This is how sick Hollywood became. He's considering whether to take this girl with him and obviously have her as the girlfriend or whatever. And he said, I might be a cunt, but I'm not a fucking cunt. And he drove off. And this is the redemptive moment of this anti-hero in the film. That's how pathetic and sick Hollywood became. Now, we know Clooney's the worst of the worst. We get that. But that is a metaphor. That is not a metaphor. It's an image of the pathetic nature of Hollywood. And so now back to these female pedos. There's no moment where consequences of actions are shown. It's, I can do what I want. For young ladies, Madonna's a classic example. I can get blind drunk, have sex with 25 guys, wake up, have the walk of shame in the morning, and because Madonna's done it, it's okay for everybody else to do it. They feel better about it. And you never see the consequence of it. You never see the sexually transmitted diseases, the shattered soul, the broken girl at the end of it that thought that she was living Madonna's high life, and then nobody wants to touch her anymore, and she's broken in so many ways. They don't see that. It doesn't matter. And these pedos are the same. They've got away with their depraved sexual acts for years. There's been no comeback. There's no consequences, and so this is the system that they have to use. And we've got our first female prime minister. She's right up there in that dirt with Hillary Clinton. Now, Julia Gillard, our first female prime minister, lesbian. Not that there's anything wrong with being a lesbian. That's your choice. But when it becomes your defining quality, then it becomes a problem, because there's a whole culture that goes with that destroys everything that has built everything good on this planet. But she was part of that as well with Hillary Clinton. Now, what they do is they get young and stupid idiot like Julia Gillard, and promote them, and they set a lifestyle. This is in politics, or they do it in the music industry, and they set a lifestyle so people can imitate that. And the message to the young ones, because they have to have a pipeline of these idiots being fed into the system. So they say to the young stupid women, look, if you do what she did, you can be like her. And look where she is now. She's running this education initiative, global education initiative, being paid millions of dollars by Hillary Clinton. And so this whole pipeline goes, because there is no consequence ever communicated. Now back to the female pedos, same thing. Live this awful bloody life. It's obvious these people are just terrible people, and they are just alluring young idiot women along this line. There's another point to why this female pedo issue is clear. The feminists for years have been saying all men are bastards, and if everyone was just like women, we'd be fine. Well, yeah, right. It reminds me of that all-female engineering company that built some bridges in the US. I don't know, maths doesn't care about your gender. If it feels right, it's not necessarily going to stand up, and the bridges collapsed. And I can just imagine the discussion around the table where none of the women wanted to point out an error in mathematics to the other, so they built the bridges and they all collapsed. So no, the matriarchy is no better than the patriarchy. Seriously. And in fact, in some cases, It's absolutely worse. And so what we've now got is, and I say this quite publicly, I don't care if I piss women off, because I don't care. If they voted for Julia Gillard, and I'm using her as an example, or if anybody in the US voted for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman, you're an idiot. You are congenitally imbecilic in your thinking process. If you think a pair of ovaries is going to make something better, you're wrong. And yet that's exactly where we ended up. We had people voting for Hillary. We had people voting for Julia Gillard. Thankfully, Hillary didn't get in. Julia Gillard did. And the upside is it's a big finger in the face of every woman out there and say, grow up. Use your brains. Think about what you're doing. Just because you're a female doesn't make you great. Well, you got to protect the sisterhood. What, when they're pedophiles? And I've met women that are exactly like that. They would rather protect the sisterhood than protect innocence. That's how messed up it gets, John. It's terrifying. Yeah. So this is really important for people to understand that the feminist trope that's been run for so long is a complete lie. It is a complete lie. Countless examples, and I don't mean to go on, but I just got to mention a couple more. For example, and these are Australian statistics. Men are bastards. They just sow their seed everywhere, and women, poor women, are left to worry about the consequences. Well, 1 in 3 children in the US don't belong to dad. Think about that for a minute. Who do you think people are sleeping? Ladies, who do you think they're sleeping with? So 1 in 3 children are not dad. In Australia, that's been extrapolated to 1 in 4. Domestic abuse, in Australia, 1 in 3 victims of domestic abuse are male. And I've had colleagues and friends, they don't hit back. Well, maybe I deserved it, but in this particular case, I didn't. I've been splashed with boiling water. I've stood there while my then wife was stood there waiting to fight herself out. It happens to, 1 out of 3 domestic violence victims are male. See, these are all the truths that the feminazis don't want to repeat. And they've created this generation of young women that genuinely believe that we are the enemy, men are the enemy. And it's embarrassing, and it's tragic, and it's sad, because they're destroying young boys. Mothers think that the women are everything, and boys are just little grubs that we don't need. One of my mothers-in-law, again, just so you know, I'm just not rattling off stats. One of my mothers-in-law, and I'm not proud to have been married 3 times, but at least I can tell stories without identifying exactly whom I am discussing. But one mother-in-law used to sit around with her friends, all women of a certain age, and they're all, let's say, pear-shaped with short grey hair. And they'd be sitting around discussing, well, we don't need too many men on the planet. We just need a few for sperm. But, we don't need men, because we can do so much of a better job absent men. This is a genuinely serious discussion by a group, without identifying, in government, let's say, pretty high-powered senior middle management, let's call them. And this is where they used to live. This is the sort of nonsense that permeates the whole city. the whole country, the whole planet. And then you end up with these pedos on screen that are doing the same thing. We can do anything without consequence because people know the great unwashed don't. But people know that they have penises when they don't, or they do things with children when they don't. Demi Moore seen kissing a young, she'd have been what, late teens, early 20s, and the boy would have been 13, 14, and she was all over him. Nobody said a word. No
That's right.
consequences. All good. Let's get on with it.
I've seen that clip. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have. You raised some interesting points. I love the term feminazi. That's the first time I've heard that. That's well stated. Perhaps you and I can, at a later time, dive into the origin of this battle between the sexes, which I believe began in the late 60s, early 70s, for a host of reasons. And we can dissect that down the line. And it's really come full circle today. Um, and it reminds me of the movie. I can't remember the name of it. Show me the money. Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr. And I remember the scene when all those women that hate men, because they've had bad marriages and blame it all on the guy, and they're all in the room in like a women's support group, and Tom Cruise walks in, you know, and becomes like, he melted that room down a little bit, pierced their feminazi views by displaying his affection and love and realizing he was wrong and wanted Renee Zellweger back. You had me at hello, that scene. But I wish I'd remember the name of the movie. But anyway, you raised some great points there.
Hang on, hang
Spinning
on.
off of it.
I don't want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt,
Do.
and we never do, but I'm just going to jump in here. Yeah, that scene's a classic where all of a sudden the girls decide the sisterhood doesn't matter if I can get the alpha male. That has a biological concept to it. I'll give you an example. You've got the lion, the male lion has a pride, the pride of lions. That's the collective noun for a group of lions, right? And so you've got the male lion, and he has 3 or 4 maybe females. They do the hunting. He sits around and gets the first food. Sounds very comfortable for him anyway. Sort of, up to a point, because he's got to do his job too. Otherwise, he doesn't get the chance to mate with the females. So he has the 4 females, and they'll hunt and they'll keep the show running until one of the younger male decides to challenge the older male, and they have a fight. Now, if the older male loses, and it's never to the death, it's just to the point where the older male knows, I'm done. I've had my time in the sun. It's now over, and he wanders off. And the young male lion is now the head of that pride. The females walk up and prostrate themselves before him. So there's a biological aspect to this whole women throwing themselves at the feet of the alpha male. Now, the thinking woman would say that this lacks dignity. Well, it does. Of course it does. But it's in you, so don't pretend it's not. Don't pretend that you are the heart of intellectualism and men are just a bunch of hormonal responses, which is grossly insulting. But that's what women do. They're just grossly insulting. They really are. They like to think what they like to think, and the sisterhood never challenges them until they stand outside the sisterhood, and then they rip them apart. Anyway, there's a whole line of discussion we could go down. But we'll leave it there.
We'll take it on. We'll take it on one day. I'll conclude with that by saying that I do believe the bulk of this clash between men and women began with the women's liberation movement, if you want to title it that, bring our mind back to that decade. And that's when it began for a host of reasons. And the truth of the matter is we need each other. We were designed a specific way, physically, spiritually, and mentally. And a woman is extremely valuable and extremely powerful, as are men. And we should be in the roles that were intended, and we'll find ourselves well fulfilled in a happier situation. And boy, we got a long way to go to get back to that. Now that brings me to Deepak Chopra, a highly popular Indian American author, speaker, known for popularizing ideas around mindfulness, meditation, spirituality, and mind-body healing. Now, interesting that his name would appear 3,300 times in the Epstein files, and a quote in an email he sent to Epstein that said, quote, "God is a construct. Cute girls are real," as he wrote to Epstein in one email. Now, that's an interesting situation. I don't know the rest of the dirt on Deepak Chopra, but that's pretty revealing in and of itself. And I'll share a quick story and have you weigh in your commentary on these. Quote, we're not talking, we've already, you've certainly been very vocal about Christianity and the downsides of it and man-made religion and certainly the Islamic faith and various different things. But we also have these sort of modern day people that like Deepak Chopra or the Dalai Lama. Now, the Dalai Lama, I lived in communist China for a year and a half, many years ago, and I actually brought from my home in Florida as I was relocating into Asia. I brought some of my library, and the rest I gave away. And part of that library was a whole bunch of Dalai Lama books and videos because I was studying the Dalai Lama, seemed to be a man of peace. And what inspired that was a film with Brad Pitt called 7 Years in Tibet. Now, how accurate that was, I don't know, but I think politically it was pretty spot on what the Communist Party did. But, as I've learned and grown, knowledge is power, applied knowledge is wisdom. Well, a couple of points in there. So I'm in China and I have my bookcase in my studio room there back in 2011. I was once married to a Chinese American. I, like you, Rick, have 3 under my belt. Not proud of that, but that's the journey. But so I was getting. It was the end of my Chinese American marriage in China, and my bookcase has all these Dalai Lama videos and books. And as family came in and friends, we'd have social gatherings at the home. They say, "Oh my God, you have Dalai Lama stuff here." I didn't realize that you can get executed for that in China, having anything to do with the Dalai Lama, and of course, I kept all the materials there. But that's just one little interesting point. What I'm getting at off the heels of Deepak Chopra and why I lumped in the Dalai Lama, these are figures that the world basically has looked up to, that saying these are spiritual men, these are grounding men we can glean some inspiration from, that's outside of, let's say, Christianity, Judaism, all that. And they turn out to be a bunch of, I read you the quote. Now, last thing, I'll turn it over to you, Rick, is the Dalai Lama. I don't know, maybe you saw it too, but last year I saw him, I think, tongue kissing, but certainly a healthy mouth-to-mouth kiss with a young boy, with a happy. I don't know. I'll bet you the Dalai Lama is going to show up in those Epstein files. I didn't say it's out there, folks, but it wouldn't surprise me. Any commentary about these so-called religious folks that have inspired people that say things like God is a construct and cute girls are real? What's your take on that?
Yeah, the opening quote that I'm reminded of is JF Kennedy said, "Things just don't happen. Things happen because they're made to happen." Now you got this again. You remember that we're a prison planet, to use that well-known expression. The whole planet is run by a coherent organization with many subsets that are at war with each other, without a doubt. But the whole planet's run. So you don't get to be the top name in anything on planet Earth unless you're compromised. And you think about it, whether it's religion, well, we've got one Pope, there's 1.3 billion Catholics for him, Islam, and you work your way down. And so you control the controllers and then you control the planet. Again, Hollywood's the same thing. What, do you think there's only 20 decent actors in the whole of the United States? There's millions of them, but they control the ones that they can control because they're the ones that they invest in. I had a friend of mine who was a tremendous opera singer, and a manager wanted to get her in his stable. But the reason he wanted that is because he'd been investing in this other singer, and she could see that this young girl was going to exceed her. But having invested so much in singer number one, he didn't need competition, so he was going to get this girl in his stable and make sure she never got anywhere. It's the same with religion. You think the Dalai Lama is the good guy? No. What about the Panchen Lama? What about, please, it's all controlled. Anybody but anybody who has made it big is bent. That's the operating principle. You got to remember that. Nobody's clean. Above a certain level, below a certain level, you're good. They don't care. But you get up to a certain level. If you wish to progress, you've got to be bent. And if you don't make that jump, you'll stay down. You'll be paddling in the shallows for the rest of your life. In every aspect of life, doesn't matter what it is: military, sport, entertainment, news, finance, whatever it is. You'll only paddle in the shallows unless they can control you. Think of it this way: in Australia, cricket's pretty big in Oz. That's our summer sport, like your baseball. Diminishing now, but it used to be huge. And the news came out, and this is going back a couple of decades, but one of the top umpires, and once you're in that top umpiring group for all the test matches, for all the Class A matches, that's a very select group of individuals to be a test umpire. Now, how do you control sport? Well, why not control the umpires? How do you control the umpires? Get a bunch of pedos in there. They'll give the dodgy call every time they need to give the dodgy call. They'll give the not out when the not out's required. They'll give the out when the out's required as well. And one was exposed as a pedophile, and his resignation was quietly hushed up and sent away, and nothing else to see here, folks. And they sort of said, "Oh, well, I suppose it's not surprising that there's a pedo or two out there." It had nothing to do with that. The whole system is run by pedophile blackmail. The whole system. If anybody is in a position of real power and authority anywhere on the planet, they're controlled. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, let me just
You know,
give you the good news to
go
that
ahead.
story.
Please continue.
It relates to something we were talking about earlier. The silent majority, you're talking about how we are good despite the depravity that is heaped upon us. Yeah, to a point. United States, Australia, the Christian West, absolutely, because we hang on to that Christian ethic. That's why we're silent in the face of egregious pain. Others do because they're frightened. The big difference between the man that doesn't fight, who can but doesn't because there's another way to do business, and the man who doesn't fight because he's scared. The rest of the planet, absent the Christians, they live in absolute fear because their God, their whomever, terrifies them. Our God loves us. Their God threatens them. They live in fear. We don't. That's why the Christian West is so critical. And once again, you don't have to become a Christian. In fact, don't. We've got enough shitty Christians as it is. We don't need any more fake Christians. But you can enjoy the benefits of understanding the benefits of Christian Western-based civilization. It's just practical. It makes sense. We are silent because we tolerate. We are our brother's keeper. We care. We love. They are silent, and all you got to do is go live in Afghanistan for a month. You'll be silent, all right. You'll be very silent. Go live in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. You'll be very silent there when they come at you with a 3-foot-long bush knife. Please. If it seems like I'm a broken record and I keep repeating the same things, guess why? If we get those themes right, all the minutiae is, first of all, comprehensible, and secondly, we can defeat it.
Yes. You mentioned, I see a common denominator against a short list of people I just jotted down and listening to your analysis about people that get to the top, they're controlled and it's all negative and evil and all that. And I agree with that. But then you get those that once they got there that want to get away from it because they realize, hey, I'm done. And look what there's a common denominator of what they've done to such people. Now, I'm going to rattle off some names. It doesn't mean these people are perfect. I get all that, but I think my point will be well taken. And I'd like your quick feedback before we get into some statements from President Trump on a different subject. So anyway, you've got John Lennon of the Beatles. Now, Tavistock helped create the Beatles. Aleister Crowley was involved. You got a whole lot of stuff going on there, and they certainly created a culture for living on today. They sell more records, have more streams than Here Comes the Sun has more streams than anything on Spotify, and it was written in 1969, 67. But the point here is John Lennon was raised to the top for sure. But John Lennon also spoke out against the Vietnam War. John Lennon was living in New York City streets during the Nixon administration with a bullhorn saying, "Stop the war. We don't belong there," and so forth. And he went up against a lot of narratives. I've seen some video clips of him speaking about the New World Order, basically, and so forth and so on, which is why he wrote Revolution. But my point is, they killed him. There's plenty of information on that. Who Killed John Lennon book is one I would recommend. CIA, FBI had pounds of files on John Lennon. I know a lot of the story there, but here's a case in point. They brought him up. He decided, hey, something's wrong here. I'm going to spill the beans. What'd they do? They killed him. MLK, RFK, Malcolm X, Gandhi. And again, I know all these people aren't perfect. There's this other side of the story, but it fits in the narrative of they build you up. And then and Mel Gibson, I mean, look what Hollywood did to him when he spilled the beans. Princess Diana, Michael Jackson. You can go on and on with a list of people that were at the top, and even George Harrison. He was stabbed almost to death in his Friar Park Castle over there. He lived through that and ended up dying of cancer, but I don't think that was just some crazy guy came in there to stab George Harrison one day. How do you pierce the security to get in a place like that? So these stellar people, and there's a long list of all kinds of walks of life that have decided, got a conscience and stepped away from it and tried to speak the truth, and they all got killed for it. And this Nicki Minaj, whose name I've known because, the system drips on you. I never knew what she looked like. I've never listened to a song of hers. I don't know what her music's about, but I know she's extremely popular. And I'm just wondering, is that Nicki Minaj that's being utilized right now by the white hats, or is that another central casting? So I threw a lot of stuff out there, and we're going to get away from this stuff, audience. We're going to get into some more red meat on other issues before we conclude the show. But Ricardo, if you'd care to comment on my follow-up.
Yeah, controlled opposition. What you said is right. You've got somebody who makes it, and they see something's a bit off, and they start saying something against the narrative. That can be used when one of your operatives turns against you, you can use that to your advantage. They're controlled opposition now. They'll only go so far, and then you can sacrifice them and create the martyr, and everyone cries for about 10 minutes, and then somebody else pops up. So executing your operatives is no big deal. It's part of the show. And it's not just like there's good people that made it big, realized things were wrong, and then got whacked. There's a gradation. There's a spectrum of people, and they can fall into this spectrum in different places. And up to a certain point, you let them go. You let them go a bit crazy, because then what that does, it makes the poor put upon masses think somebody's speaking up for me. So it's a bit of a psychological pressure release for the masses. Nothing effective is ever done. Stop the Vietnam War. Yeah, okay, well done. Somebody's fighting that fight. I'll now walk away. But it was never really a fight to be fought. It was never done. That allows you've got to control both sides of the argument to play the game. And so when they start going a bit loopy, that's not a problem. It's certainly not unprecedented. It's not a problem. You use them. And if they genuinely get to the point where this could be a little bit more trouble than we need, and it's just minor trouble, it's not a big deal, then let someone kill them. And if somebody doesn't want to kill them, then you kill them. There's that scene in Network. What's the film Network? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Great movie.
So what did they do?
Yep.
the owner of the broadcasting station said, we're going to use you now, and we're going to give you a voice, and you're going to way go. And he was on TV, and he was yelling and screaming and shouting that his system should be brought down. He got assassinated. That was a documentary, folks. It wasn't a movie.
That's right.
Shooting your own
great movie
is nothing new. Nothing new. And so, yes, there are some genuine people that get up there and they realize it's bad and they turn their back and walk away, which is laudable and very difficult, requires tremendous courage. But they all stop short because they value their life too much. And this is why I love Christ so much. He's a great mate. He really is, because he always shows you can go a bit further. You can do a little bit better. He didn't go up to the Pharisees and say, look, I'll back off the Son of God stuff if you can take crucifixion off the table. I don't remember that bit in the Bible where he did that. He's like the best mate you can have. He really is for me. It's just extraordinary. Every time I have a whinge and complain, do I have to really put up with this shit? I can hear him saying, I did. I go, okay. So I'll keep going. But the point is, people value their life too much. They're not willing to take that last step. That's what Christ did. He took that last step. That's why my metric for when is my job done? If I die, then so be it. So we know this isn't it. We know there is something after this anyway. Use it while you're here. But most people, and look, I know most people aren't soldiers. They don't have the courage of a soldier. Most people are frightened, ignorant. I get it. I get it. But we've got to be careful about lionizing cowardice. And that's really hard to say for people who have given everything up. Well, they haven't given everything up. What they give up? A career. They've still got their millions in the bank. They've still got their basement full of cars. They're still driving cars, the cobalt of which was dug out by 60-year-olds in Africa. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
What did he say? Throw away your riches. Follow me.
Yeah.
That's not a marketing line, folks. It's not a marketing line. Oh, look, I want to save the country, but don't touch my bank balance. Oh, and have a happy family and raise my kids, but no. I'm really unhelpful. I'm really unhelpful on this subject because when the gold standard, excuse me, when the gold standard is this guy called Christ and the life he lived and what he said and how he said it, and forget the religion they've built around him. It's 99% bullshit. It really is. But when you look at that, you realize, okay, he showed us how to live. He showed us how to love. He showed us how to die. That's the standard. Now, there you go. You can do whatever you like. And once again, too many people value their lives too highly. Now, that's not a criticism. It's like demanding a kindergarten child to, go through their, the bar exam to pick something silly. They're not up for it yet. I get it. But don't pretend that hitting two blue blocks together is the equivalent of passing the bar exam. It's not. We have to stretch ourselves. St. Augustine said we must hate what is within us in order to make ourselves better. We don't have to hate ourselves, but we've got to understand that whatever we are now is less than we could be. So we've got to disregard that and become something more and become something more. There's a line in A1. We have to become people we've never been before by doing things we've never done before. And that's the way we have to do it.
Very good.
I was last one, but this is actually important, I think, John. When I met my my gorgeous current wife, last wife I'll ever have, I was already a retired 47-year-old lieutenant colonel in his own business, and somebody said, "Oh, he's got potential," and I went, "Beg your pardon? Potential? You're kidding me? I have lived an incredible life. I'm quite proud of what I've achieved, but it really gave me pause." And she reported that statement to me. He's got potential, and I was a bit miffed. I thought, "Hang on, come on! I've only been on the planet less than half a century, and I've done amazing things. I've gone amazing places. I've qualified for organisations. It's easy to become an A-League soccer player in the UK than it is to get into the SAS." But it gave me pause and I realized, there's a whole much more to do. So I put my achievements to one side, said, okay, great. That's what you used to be. What are you going to become now? And then bit by bit by bit, by demanding more of myself, not unrealistically, but stretching myself, compelling myself to read, learn, study, understand things I didn't even know existed. And we all have that capacity. We all have to keep pushing ourselves and realizing you must let the dead bury the dead, to quote Mark Antony in Julius Caesar. Let the dead bury the dead. Let's turn around now and start. And this is so important to what's coming next. This is not just, that's an interesting little discussion. What we become as individuals in the next 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years will determine the fate of the planet. Now, we're at the Schwerpunkt, to use German military terminology, that critical point of the battle. And to win this war, not just defeat the Black Hats, that's not winning the war. To win the war is then to create the golden age. And each one of us has a
Yes.
role to play in creating this golden age. Now, unless we become more than we were, we're just going to repeat the same mess that we just got out of. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
We as
Oh yeah.
individuals must grow, must change, must become something new in order to create a new planet. And this golden age literally depends on every one of us becoming something we've never been before by doing things we've never done before. And to do that, you've got to push all your history to the past. Whatever you were in the past is now dead. You know, good luck to you. Well done. Now become something new, become something better. So there you go.
Very good. It inspired me to feedback with this, and then we'll go into some new territory. When I think of the QFS, it's more than the world that's being created that we'll soon be operating in. As you said, will take some years for change, but that QFS is more than just a system, a digital highway for money to travel without corruption and swiftly and cost effectively. That coupled with many other changes that we're going through are very positive. That when to paint the picture a little further, I've said this before, but quotes from Elon Musk, soon you won't have to save money. Further down the road, work will be optional. We know about the repatriation of wealth that's coming back to us in certain, we have our finger on the pulse, we believe, of certain methods and ways that's going to happen. When you take the collective of all that, um, you end up where you just talked about. That gives the being, the person, the individual, us, we the people of the world, the opportunity to exercise our true innate gifts and talents and abilities from the creator to start to bury the good and the bad of our past and certainly not rest on our laurels. We now have, with the boots of tyranny off our neck, not having to worry about paying for electricity, or can get healed in a med bed, and you've got money for humanitarian projects to help. The best of us is going to come out. I believe that. And I know a lot of people listening right now and say, "Yeah, good luck with that. The evil is there." Yeah, that's there. It'll be combated forever. But I think we're on that shift. Would that be a fair viewpoint from what you've just talked about, and it goes back to what you said earlier, the goodness of people were basically good, but we haven't had the chance. I mean, we've had the chance, and we looked at some stellar people who paid the ultimate price for it, but we're at a really great time. You mentioned the golden age. I consider the dawning of it officially July 4th. I consider that a turning point, and I believe that the best is yet to come, to use the soundbite. Um, Unless you got a quick comment, I want to move into Kevin Warsh, the nominee for the Federal Reserve chair. This is interesting and important. I'm going to quote President Trump. In case our audience, our viewers missed this, this is something not to miss. And if you've seen it, this is something to comment on again and certainly have Ricardo weigh in on. Here it is. Quote, President Donald J. Trump. I have known Kevin Warsh. Now, again, folks, this is who's replacing Jerome Powell as a Federal Reserve chair come May, unless it's already been done. I don't think so. I think it's as Powell exits, his term is up, this guy comes in. So anyway, quote, I have known Kevin for a long period of time and have no doubt that he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best. On top of everything else, he is central casting, and he will never let you down. Excuse me. I mean, how more you want reveals, you want clues and hints. How much more obvious can our president get with a statement like that? What's your feedback, sir?
Oh yeah, it's a joy to watch. It really is. And with this appointment, people will and should look at his past. Is it checkered? Is it clean? Is it dirty? Is it a bit sus? It doesn't matter.
Correct.
And this touches into a comment. I was listening to a commentator who was launching at Pam Bondi for having a rant in an inquiry, and she was off the topic, and she was talking about what a good job Trump had done with the economy, and she was being asked questions about Epstein or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. And oh my
Mhm.
God, Bondi's losing it. She's ranting. She's a deadhead. She's a pedophile protector. And I burst out laughing. I burst out laughing. Everybody has been selected to perform a function. Some
Correct.
are clean, some are dirty. Some are dirty who are now clean. Some are dirty who now have a gun to their head and they want to live another day. And if you want to look at their background, you can do that. Have a look. But understand that everyone has been cast in this movie for a specific purpose. Some of them will be in for a short time and then they pulled out of after season one, episode one, they're gone because their role was finished. Others are they will leave at the end of season one, but they might have a guest appearance back in season two. Others will be in there for the whole show. And so again, look at it like that. These characters have been picked. And you'll watch a film and you see a flawed character in the film, and you know these people are destined for bad things in the end. And sure enough, before the end of the movie, bad things happen to these people because you could pick it. Because the storyteller is trying to telegraph exactly what's going. Now, why the people are suffering here is they don't have the script. They don't know the story. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? I thought he was a good guy. Wasn't she a crappy attorney general in Florida? Why is she? I don't get it. Didn't Trump go back to Trump's first and most important appointment after his first election? Who'd he pick? Pence. You don't think he knew that Pence was a dirtbag?
Absolutely.
My wife and I
Absolutely.
looked at each other and went, "Why?"
Yep.
Because we were so excited. Yes, Trump got in. Yahoo! We attended all the Trump election parties here in Oz. And then he picks Pence, and he had this parade, and he did it so well. He had this parade of people turning up to be interviewed. Do you remember that? And even real problem children, he interviewed them as well. We didn't know at the time that was the beginning of the movie. He was setting this is episode one, season one, and what's going to happen down the track. So he introduces the characters, and they disappear, then they come back later. Mitt Romney, let's interview Mitt Romney for the role of vice president. You're kidding, right? But then he comes up later in season two where he's revealed to be what he is revealed to be. Okay, and so with Pat Bondi and this guy, the new Fed chair, and everybody else,
Yep.
they know the producers of this film that we're watching, and these are genuine movie producers and directors. These guys are extremely talented because putting a show together and is like, for example, Frasier, 11 seasons, many episodes per season, and the story. It is exquisitely timed. They have backups in case an actress might get pregnant. So let's do an episode that we can fill in while she's off giving birth. Things like that. They anticipate. It's
Right.
beautifully
Right.
orchestrated. And orchestrated is exactly the right word. It's sequenced. It's timed, and the casting is done. They get the right cast. They get the right director, the right producer to produce these little shows, 1,000 little shows that together form the whole narrative. And so, again, the point I'm trying to make is whenever these people get appointed, please don't lose your stuff over, oh my God, they
Correct.
have been selected for a job. They will do that job. And
Mhm.
whether they're cast as a villain or hero, or there's a moment of redemption at the end and everybody cries because I hoped he did, he would turn the corner and do the right thing, or she would turn out to be, it doesn't matter. But that's what you're watching.
Yep.
So again,
Mhm.
if you wonder why I laugh sometimes, I still get cranky, but if I laugh sometimes at the view, it's not because I'm laughing at people's pain. You get to
Of
see what's
course.
going on. This is, season 9 now, I think we're up to. And we're in episode 13, and who, who, what's happening next? This show is sometimes it's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all. We're going, where did that come from? Why is that happening? Why did he say that? Because it's to cover something else. And the fact that Pam Bondi, for example, just on this issue, the fact that she's ranting
Mhm.
and raving like a lunatic about irrelevancies, it screams distraction. So everybody's now looking over there while they're not looking over here. Again, watch it like it's a TV show. They're actors, they're selected, they have a role to play, they know how long they're going to be in the program. Pal was in very specifically to do a very specific job,
Yes.
to stand there, spread his legs, and get a big kick in the groin, because that was a very clear message that the reign of the Federal Reserve Chairman is over. It's
Yes.
done. These people were demigods, no more. Now, whether this new guy is exactly a good guy, bad guy, or is check, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
He has a
matter.
role to play. He'll
Doesn't
play that
matter.
role. That's what he does. And there you go.
And that's thank you, Ricardo. That's exactly what President Trump was telling us somewhat directly by calling it, you're going to enjoy it, central casting. I took a note here. I love the terminology you're using: season 9, season 12, enter, exit, blah blah blah. That's a real simple and good way for our audience, to those that don't really get it yet, that by and large a lot of what's happening is scripted. That's a great way to phrase it, and I want to share this with everybody. A lot of folks in our movement, well, not a lot, but there's a segment within the movement that have been permeating a narrative that says soon Donald Trump's going to exit the script. So I texted Juan. I said, "What say you?" And he texted me back one word: bullshit. So I figured I'd put that on the record. Now, Trump eventually will exit the script, but the people are saying like it's going to happen very soon, and it's like not going to be good. And that's, according to Juan, not the case. And I would concur, because especially where we're at in this battle right now, you're not going to take the commander in chief out of the script at this stage. What quick comment on that, Ricardo, before I take us into election theft?
Who could possibly follow the Don successfully?
Correct. Not right now.
now.
Nobody.
It'll happen at some point. Who's
Yes.
been prepared? Who? Are we got a surprise actor about to enter and sing a better song or dance a better dance than the Don does? It won't work. Yeah, he'll go. He has to go.
Right.
Everybody has to go. There has to be a succession plan. There has to be trust invested in the replacement. There has to be. And they can talk about his children. They can talk about Vance. I mean, Vance. Does anybody remember when Vance was appointed? What a questionable individual Vance was.
Yeah, you talk about a character in a show. Yeah, without question.
No, he's hanging around. The Don's hanging around for a bit.
I agree. And, we'll talk later when I use the example of Mel Gibson. I'm a big fan of Mel and his role in The Patriot, one of my favorite, if not the favorite movie of all time for me, where the final battle with the flag and the blood and the machetes, and he's running for the hill. When we're on top of that hill and the light of God is shining, and we've gotten past the major battle in this war, which I think is coming sooner than later. And I realize many aspects of it goes on for many years to come. But what I'm getting at is you and I might want to have deep discussions, especially analyzing the world at that time, about life beyond Trump. I'd like to start exploring that a little bit down the line, because it's coming. But anyway, I want to our producer, let's put up image 6 and 7. That'll remind me of where I'd like to go with Ricardo Bosi here. Okay. Can we go full screen on that, sir? Because I can't read it due to my eyes. All right. So here we have someone post this. Well, President Donald Trump reposted Cue the Storm. Now we'll start there. The fact that the president posts Cue the Storm is a conversation in and of itself. But the guts of this post is as I read: boom, 19,000 some odd votes flipped live on TV from Trump to Biden, Pennsylvania, during 2020 election. What this thing, our audience can read it, and you can back it up later, screenshot it and read it. Let's go back to Ricardo and I in the 3 panel. What you have here is something interesting. You have the president is ramping up all the theft that we knew took place and showing it to the people. Maricopa County, understood by the DHS, was just raided. I got that text from Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck. I haven't read it yet. That just happened for me this morning. But I am going to read one more thing on my other screen over here to the audience, and then have you weigh in on the election theft that is narrative that's being created now strategically at this point, because the midterms are coming. I'll read this from President Trump, just published. The Democrats refuse to vote for a vote. All right, let's look at this on the screen. Thank you to my producer. Save America Act is what we're talking about here. You can read that and take a look at this. What we're talking about here is the president said on a recent publishing that only I have on the screen here: the Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID or citizenship. The reason is very simple. It's going through the House and Senate right now. Whoops, my screen timed out. Pardon me, folks. I don't have the dollars and the team behind me that Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson do. But I'll tell you what I do have. I have Ricardo Bosi, and that is far more valuable in my humble opinion. But here we go. The Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID or citizenship. The reason is very simple. They want to continue to cheat in elections. This was not what our founders desired. I have searched the depths. Listen to what the president's just published. I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on this subject, and will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. There will be voter ID, says the president, for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. Also, the people of our country are insisting on citizenship and no mail in ballots, with exceptions, of course, for military, disability, illness, or travel like me. Here I am in Thailand. I can vote through the embassy and so forth. All right. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That's an extraordinary post right now as the House and Senate, the Democrats are trying to stop Save America Act. Well, nothing can stop what's coming. The president just told us that. I'm going to dump one more thing out here and turn the airwaves over to Ricardo Bosi. So election theft is developing. The Supreme Court is moving to mandate voter ID requirements across all 50 states, aiming to standardize election security nationwide. This potential ruling could reshape voting access in America, with proponents cheering it is a vital step against fraud and opponents warning of voter suppression. To me, this is black and white issue. I can't even believe it can go in the direction that the Democrats want to take it. Now, you know me, you don't hear me talking about Democrat, Republican or not, but right now this is our system. And I got questions about that coming up after this. But anyway, please weigh in on what I just read from President Donald J. Trump. Remind you of the highlights. Voter ID for midterms elections, whether approved or not by Congress, is going to happen. That's extraordinary. And we know he doesn't put this out willy-nilly. How would you like to break this down, Ricardo, and bring some sense to the madness for those in America that are on the edge of their seat thinking, oh, my God, we're not going to pass the bill? What do you say about this?
Yeah, excuse me. It's that first tweet that you put up, where DJ2 was talking about the stolen election again, and a lot of people got bored with that. They're like, "Oh, shut up! It's over! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!" No, he's not going to. He's never going to, because as we know, everything that the president has done has been lawful and legal. It's been constitutional and legal. There's been a law, a set of rules that has backed up every action he has taken. That's why he keeps banging on about the election. Now, the stolen election means that everything that happened past that point is null and void. Never happened,
Correct.
no authority, all lies. And that's what people have to remember. That's why it's not a matter of, oh, let it go, win the next one. No. On top of that, it gives a means by which, by pursuing it, they can then map the system and track down the people that did it. So that's the other part of the beauty of pursuing this. Because if you don't clean out the system, the same thing will happen again. So there's a very logical and patient reason why it has to be done like this. Now, what's the Save America Act, voter ID, blah, blah, blah. It makes sense. But hang on. No. You can't do it, President, because voting is in the hands of the states, because we're independent states when we came together and we held on to that. Yeah, up to a point, except guess what? That law no longer stands. What he's doing is, there's a rude way of describing it. But let's just say DJT has been in the room 5 minutes before he got there. His aura is so huge. He has other means, as Derek Johnson has explained to people ad nauseum, that there's a continuity of government system in place. The military is in charge, and what he is doing as commander-in-chief doesn't come under the Constitution in terms of the Constitution, but it comes under the military law. And so people, and is this the only possible interpretation? No, but it's certainly mine. Does he have the authority to do it? Yes. Why? Because he wouldn't say it if he didn't. So he constantly prepares the ground. There's a legal basis. There is a legal basis. And then he does what he does. And people, in retrospect, realize, oh, he could do that. Okay. Oh, you mean we can do that in Washington, D.C. because it's not part of the United States? Oh, okay. But he reveals the truth, gets the legal basis, and then moves forward. So is there going to be voter ID? Yes. Is the military going to be involved in the election? Yes. We can see the same happening in Australia too, by the way, because we've got an election coming up, and we have a voter system that's worse than yours. It is worse than yours. But that's the basis of it. He always does what is legal. He does what is lawful. That is paramount to the success of this operation. Nothing he does breaks the law. And if the people are saying it's unlawful, it's because they haven't read the detail. They're not across the basis of, how do you put it, upon what authority is Donald J. Trump operating? And it's upon the authority that was established over many, many, many years, whether it's the Constitution, whether it's the military, or even the corporation. He's been dancing between all of them. 3 different tunes playing simultaneously, and he's made sure that he's had exactly the right steps for every dance that he's been dancing. So I'm not the least bit worried, and it'll come out, and it's going to a cleansing effect on the Congress, let's say, a cleansing effect. Particularly in light, and let me just finish on that. Yeah, particularly in light of the recent elections where, what are the numbers? The Muslim Brotherhood have penetrated. Oh man, hang on. No, I'll get the numbers because this is apt. It's not just a matter of DJT and his ego and did he win the election. I made some notes earlier and they seem to have gone walkabout. No, here we go. Muslim Brotherhood infiltration of the US. Their plan was written in 1991. They actually wrote the plan down. At the recent elections, 76 Muslims ran for office, 42 won, 3 pending. 9 states, New York, Virginia, Michigan, New Jersey, Maryland, Washington, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. 6 mayors, 4 state legislators, 20 city councillors and commissioners, and 6 school board members, 2 judges, and a bunch of other people. That's why all this is critical. You can't have an election unless the system's clean. And if the system is letting the wrong people in and the wrong people are counting, then you've got problems. And so once again, it's not like this is just an issue with one point of focus. This is one step that permeates out across multiple levels of the control network run by the bad guys. And the bad guys, everybody. And the Muslims are just one means. They're just a mechanism by which they can, the cabal planned to destroy the US. Just useful idiots, the Muslims, as far as the cabal's concerned, much like the communists were useful idiots to the actual Bolsheviks who are running the show. And so, no, I'm not the least bit concerned, and nor should anybody in the US. This is all part of the lawful process of cleaning up the system and doing what's got to be done to give the country back to the American people.
Absolutely. I took a note here. You really brought it home. While I've been aware of what you've just walked us through, because, I'm on the pulse of a lot of these things and I learn a lot from interviewing people like you and others and done my homework. But you really brought it home when you said the president and commander in chief, Donald J. Trump, has been straddling 3 different core things, all lawful, constitutional, etc. But working within when he's wearing the hat and doing the tasks that are of the Constitution. At the same time, he's wearing the hat and doing the tasks of the law of war and the military law in a continuity of government framework. And then the third of the U.S. corporation, where he has to act in certain ways and do certain things in that. That is so brilliantly laid out, and I hope our audience really grab that, because that's the 40,000-foot view that should tie all the confusions together for people on why and what the president is doing what he does. And it is all lawful and legal. And you once put a picture in our head saying he has a team of constitutional and expert lawyers in the think tank with the white hats in the military before some of these actions are made. But it's interesting how you phrase it, how he has straddled these 3 operational things of which he operates within lawfully and legally. And I want to just say this. I've been saying this since 2020. I've had Juan whispering in my ear all this time. I was on the stage, a lot of the Clay Clark Reawakened speeches and so forth. And, I've said it when it wasn't popular to say it, that the election was stolen and that we will get it right or we will never have America again. And that's just common sense. And I've hung on to that. And now it is being deployed. It is happening, as I've just covered with president's quotes and your brilliant analysis on it. So folks listening to this broadcast, doesn't mean rest on your laurels. Do what you've got to do. Get active, involved, and all that stuff. But when it comes to the general election and the midterms, I put out a statement on my social media. I said, IMO, in my opinion, and I can state this very confidently because I'm following the president and I'm listening to you and other brilliant analysis. We're never going to have, when I say never, I mean in our immediate lifetime, that never. We're never going to have another stolen election in this country again. And we're going to fix it in the other 72 countries over time. And I don't think that's an off the charts, optimistic, unfounded statement. That is, in fact, what we're doing. So I just wanted to get that out there and get my passion on that. And when we have our global defense to our audience, once a month, Ricardo Bosi and Mike Jaco and Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox and Derek Johnson and Lieutenant Colonel Tom Sellers and others that join our platform each and every month. And we're launching Global Defense War next week. I'm going to raise, Ricardo, with you certainly and the panel, a conversation about taking elections a little bit further. Like, will the Democrat Party exist come the next general election in 3 years? We're going to raise that issue. We're going to raise the issue, will the Democrat and Republican Party exist in 3 years? What potentially could we be creating? And will President Trump be, quote, the last president? We're going to jump into that on the Global Defense War panel. So there's a cliffhanger for our audience to come join us. I want to switch gears and wrap up our Bosi briefs this week. Very inspiring and enlightening. Thanks to you, sir. I understand there are over 700 books of the Bible. I understand we have only 66 of them. Maybe these numbers aren't exactly right. People can go do the homework, but I think the concept is well understood. So if there are 711 that are missing, the white hats have retrieved them, I understand, when we took the gold, the silver, and the books of the Bible and many other riches and things that have been stolen from the people of the world for a long, long time in the underground cities of the Vatican. Do you care to comment on that? Because, if you have so many truths omitted from the book, boy, that's a problem. Do you validate that statement to an extent? And any commentary about the importance of the retrieving of this material?
Oh, it's immense. It underpins the next 1,000 years on the planet. It really does. You said something which is right, but I'd like to expand upon it when you're discussing the patriots charging up the hill and the light of God descending upon them. It reminds me that the light of God lives in every one of us. So change the image of the patriots charging up the hill with the flag, which is glorious. Don't get me wrong. I wish we could just have a scintilla here in Australia of the patriotism that the Americans feel for their country. Now, at that picture, instead of seeing this light, and just go with me, I'm telling a story here, right? So suspend your disbelief. The patriots race up the hill, they've got the flag, and the light of God descends upon them. Change it fractionally. They're charging up the hill with the light of God within them, and each individual glows as they congregate on the top of that hill. And there's the light of God in each and every one of us. Now, that's a fundamentally different perspective to look at life on Earth and to look at us as we struggle to understand, to put God in a box. Captain Cole's expression, don't put God in a box, and we always try to do it and we fail. But with these additional books, this additional wisdom that has been recovered, thank God, quite literally, it's been recovered. This will provide the knowledge which will give us the understanding to realize that what Christ was saying, what every genuine spiritual leader, genuine, not the bogus ones, not the ones that were manipulated or created, the ones that were genuinely trying to understand the Almighty. It's not like God turned up when Jesus was here. God's been talking to everybody forever, and we've all done our best to understand it. And so the messages, there are remarkable similarities between the messages the Almighty has sent us through different individuals. The best of those was Jesus Christ, without a doubt. That's why he's my best mate, to put in the Australian vernacular. But that doesn't mean there aren't stories that are remarkably similar um, told by different people at a different time. And it gets narrowed and narrowed and narrowed in order to achieve a more terrestrial, profane objective of control over the people rather than what the Almighty originally intended, to liberate us. A divine, sacred message turns into this profanity. So these books, and I can't wait for the experts to go through the books, and this, I'm hoping this will be a major part of the reveal. Documentaries online explaining who said what, when, why, how. And there's just to give you a taste of that. For example, if you can bring up those two slides, the first slide, the second slide, please, and I'll read through it with you. This is a slide from my green room last week, and it related to something else. But I was just doing the research as a bit of a backstory. Prometheus is one of the Titans, a race of powerful deities who preceded the Olympian gods. So the Titans were there first. They were eventually overcome by God. Zeus was the chief executive, let's say, of the Olympians, and he made life miserable for the Titans. Now, Prometheus, he was most famous for his role as a champion of humanity, defying the gods to bring fire and knowledge to the mortals. Zeus said, "You can't bring fire to the mortals," and Prometheus said, "Well, I like these little human things, so I'm going to help them out. I'm going to give them technology and fire." For his sins, Zeus had him chained to a rock, and every day an eagle would eat his liver. Now, the purpose of that was the liver would regrow every day, and ensuring that the torment was repeated indefinitely. So there was Prometheus chained to the rock, the eagle eating his liver, then it would regenerate, and he'd go through this infinite pain indefinitely. The Oceanids are those, if you look at the statue, the Oceanids were supporting him and singing songs and trying to make life a little bit less miserable. He eventually got away. He was saved by Heracles, that's the Greek version of Hercules, who was the Roman version. Broke his chains, slew the eagle, eating the liver. And this is while Hercules was fulfilling his labors to find the golden apples. That's another story. Again, if you like going down rabbit holes, that's a good one. Now, that's a good little story. And then I mentioned Prometheus. Now, if you go to the next slide, please. And you think, okay, well, that's just a myth. But then you go, well, what about Enki and Enlil? And these are the two most crucial, often opposing deities in Mesopotamian mythology. They're brothers, Enki and Enlil. They're the sons of An, the sky god. And you can look into the origin of An and the Enki and Enlil and where they originated. I'll leave that for you to go and discover for yourself. It's a lot of fun. They represented different forces. Enlil, the lord of the air and storms, commanded the pantheon and enforced divine order. Enki, on the other hand, he was the god of water and wisdom, was the creative figure known for ingenuity and favoring humanity. He apparently shaped humans out of clay and breathed life into them. This is Enki. And according to the myths, Enki designed humans to serve the gods, while Enlil was involved, Enlil, the other way around. Enlil was involved in giving them life and intellect. In the flood story, Enlil sought to destroy humanity due to their noise, but Enki, who liked the little humans, secretly warned Zuzudra, the Sumerian Noah figure. So the Sumerians had the same flood story of Noah, to build a boat and save his family. So the reason I bring those two up, that's just to get you maybe a little interested in investigating the parallel paths of these stories from multiple ancient civilizations. The same story told at a different time in a different place in a slightly different way. Now, why is that? I'm not sure if you remember, a long time ago, I put up a color chart and explained that if you have just 7 colors and you tried to describe every color on the planet amongst those 7, you're stuck. You've got yellow and green. Well, what about chartreuse? What's chartreuse? Well, it's between yellow and green. Oh, okay. We've got an 8th color. You get my drift. And so what I'm hoping people will do, that'll start the interest in investigating alternative spiritual traditions and realizing there is an extraordinary parallel between many of them. They're not all similar. They're not all equally valid, but it's beyond coincidence. How many coincidences before it becomes mathematically impossible? I heard someone say once. Right. Same thing. Mm-hmm. And so with the 777 books that are missing, This is a treasure trove. This is brilliant. This will do more to advance humanity spiritually, to elevate our consciousness by understanding in a more full way what it is that the Creator intended for us. Because, as I said, the Creator's been talking to everybody all the time. He didn't turn up one day on the 25th of December when JC was allegedly born. No, he was talking to everybody. Now, do other people talk? Yes. Were they accurate in their recalling of what the Almighty said? Well, some were, some weren't. It gets tough. This is where we have to think for ourselves and discern. So I'm really excited about these books and what they are going to
Yeah,
reveal. And more
you
importantly,
bet.
how it will facilitate the spiritual growth of the humans on earth, the golden age.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we're in a series of steps right now, but the great reveals are unfolding. Epstein, case in point. We have we're going through that phase. Then the justice to be shown and or occur. Both. We have that, and when all this muck is cleaned out, and the crux of the extreme dangers that we're facing now are no longer there, now we begin the creation of the golden age, and we've talked about repatriation of wealth, we've talked about QFS, we've talked about med beds, all these wonderful things. Well, you know what, one of the most wonderful things is the wisdom that's been kept from us in these books, and that's coming too, folks, as the golden age is upon us. Let's put up this image number 8 to my producer. We're going to wind our broadcast down now, and put our attention here. Christian news: Donald Trump announces a plan to rededicate America to God on its 250th anniversary. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful time. This is what's happening, and that's really a great way to wrap this show up. Let's go one more image. I think I have an image. Okay, let's see. Well, I can't read it. Maybe go full screen with it for a moment if my producer can. I don't. Killers, no matter who they. Yeah, well, I guess I didn't submit it properly. But anyway, there it is. I will expose my father's killers, no matter who they are, even if I have to bring down the whole government. JFK Jr. Any comments about this? My quick comment is that's exactly what we're doing right now. Um, what say you, sir?
Yep. The whole government, the whole government must come down. That's the point. This isn't about MAGA's right, Democrats are wrong, Republicans have got problems. No, 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 no. The entire edifice must come down. Everything. Now, when I said this some years ago, buckle up because this will break a lot of people. And the events that have been revealed are so shocking that it's shocking those of us who have already been awake. But the ones who aren't awake are the ones that have to wake up. This isn't simply a matter of saying, "Oh, pedophilia is bad. Yes, let's do something about it." No, this is if this operation had a name, it should be Operation Break Trust. As a precursor for everything else, every lie must be exposed, and therefore everybody we trust, except for God, Christ, and ourselves, looking in the mirror, they're the only three we can trust, and in that sequence. And I mean it. And we're not trustworthy because we're fallible. So invest in the other two. But everything's got to be broken. Now, for example, and it's just going to keep coming and coming and coming. And I'll read one example for you. Adam Lebuchen from British Columbia in Canada. He raped a 3-month-old and drowned a 3-year-old. Now, he was a teenager when he did this, so obviously a seriously damaged individual. He was sent to a prison, decided that he was a woman, became transgender. The government paid for breast implants, and now he's in a prison with women and children, because pregnant women in prison get to stay with their children for a while. And he's already assaulted a woman, obviously. This is the lunacy that life on Earth has become.
Yep.
But this is going to continue, and it's going to keep coming out. And then people are saying, why don't we just fix the problem? Because everybody, as many as possible, and that may be excluding the 5% that are incapable of waking up, they have to demand it come down. Everything comes down. The Republican Party comes down. We know the Democrats are coming down. Republicans have to come down. MAGA's have got to come down. Everything has got to come down. We have to be stripped bare of all the deceit, the nonsense, the lies, the camouflage that we have been wearing and we've been told. We have to be stripped down to ourselves. We need to strip ourselves of the lies that we've told ourselves, about our family, about our country, about the earth, about our religion. Unless that's done, we can't start again. And so, yeah, finishing on an optimistic note, absolutely, the golden age will be brilliant. But in order for this golden age to start, that light inside of us must be showing. That's why I started with that image of the patriots running up the hill and the light within each and every one of them. That's what Christ said. The kingdom of God is within you.
Yes.
It's not up there. It's not out there. It's not here. Within you. He was being quite literal. And
Yeah.
if you go down this path
He
of
didn't.
examining what, go on.
No, you continue.
No, that's all right. Go.
I was just going to say, Christ didn't say the Spirit is on 33rd and 3rd on Sunday at 1 p.m. He didn't say that in some building to drop money in a basket.
That's exactly
and
right.
compare clothing. Yeah.
Yep. That's the point. So we're going to strip ourselves of all this nonsense. The only way we can do that is to stop trusting everybody else. Trust the Almighty through Christ. Trust yourself. Start making decisions. If you make a wrong decision, make a better decision. That's the only way it can happen. Just like when I stripped myself of my military career, my sense of self, who I was, Lieutenant Colonel Bosi, Special Forces, blah, blah. No, bugger that. Get rid of it. Be born anew. Now, where do we hear that? Born again. My God, where do we hear that? Who said that? Unless we are born again. Unless we are born again. Okay, makes sense now?
Oh, makes total sense. Thank you, Ricardo Bosi. And to our audience, I don't have the date in front of me, but to learn about our broadcasting, we actually have a TV guide, if you want to call it, a broadcasting schedule. It's very easy to read, very simple, it's very clear. jmcbroadcasting.com. The shows that I produce are all themed. Eyes on Gitmo with a set of military panel, intelligence panel, Global Defense War with Ricardo Bosi and others. We have very Global Financial Reset live every Wednesday. Tune in to that schedule on my website, and you'll know when the broadcast will be there. And what I want to say is, in the Global Defense War panel, Ricardo, that we'll be recording next week, we're going to touch on the Epstein phenomenon. I'd like you and the panel to break down from a psychological and sociological viewpoint as we analyze in real time the different segments of the population and their response or lack thereof of what they're witnessing in the Epstein dump. I find it very fascinating, and I'm going to prompt some powerful questions for your great minds to unload for the American people. We're going to cover a lot of other things, like I mentioned before, about the will there be a two-party system? Will President Trump be around another 4 years? Will there be another president? We're going to dive into a lot of that stuff. So anyway, the greatness awaits you. 5 pillars of real leadership. People that have been following Bosi briefs for the last year and this year and following Ricardo's work directly understand his brilliant mind and great experience that he brings to the table for us. And this book lays it all out. To connect up with Ricardo Bosi, visit jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on contributors and you will see his photograph, his biography, and a link that'll take you straight into Ricardo Bosi's work with Australia One and beyond. So be sure to do that. Continue to follow Ricardo Bosi beyond Bosi Briefs. I want to thank you, sir, once again for your keen insights and information today on this Bosi Briefs. Thank you, sir. We look forward to seeing you next week on the Global Defense War panel. You're an international treasure, and I think that's something that will not come without challenge from anybody who's half awake in this world. Thank you, sir. I'll be right back. Listen to this commercial. Listen to this promo. Watch it.
Join JMC Broadcasting's monthly Global Defense War Military Panel. JMC hosts an esteemed panel of military experts, including Ricardo Bosi, Tom Lennox, Chuck Sellers, Michael Jaco, Derek Johnson, Brad Wozni, and other military guests. Join us each month where this panel of esteemed guests analyze the current events across a broad spectrum of topics, addressing the questions and concerns that you have. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Global Defense War Military Panel broadcast, right here on jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right, a couple of important quick announcements. We'll begin with Michael Jaco. He'll be joining me in the all-new Patriot Q&A Power Hour. What is that? Michael Jaco and I as your host on a Zoom split screen live to answer your questions. That's all it's about. No speeches, no scripts, no show structure. We're there to answer your questions. We had a hugely successful premiere last month with Will Barney. You'll want to join us Thursday, February 26, 8 p.m. Eastern. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com and view free subscription and premium membership, which you will find the Patriot Q&A in. Thank you, Michael Jaco, for taking your time to answer the public's questions. I also want everyone to know about Sheila Home. I've been speaking, we have special report with Sheila Home that we broadcast each and every month. I think it's our third episode that Sheila and I are recording next week, so you'll want to tune into that broadcast. But here's a special announcement. I don't have the title for it yet, but I'm going to bring two brilliant minds together for a sort of a special broadcast with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi and Sheila Home on the same screen at the same time with me as your humble host. And we're going to be deep diving into a couple of three topics. This will be published in about 2 weeks, so stay tuned to that. And we'll just wrap up here. I want to thank you, the audience, for following our show and providing some great comments that you provide in the show notes, at least on the Rumble channel. I respond to everyone that I can, but mostly I want to thank retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi for his keen insights and brilliant analysis and inspirational insights and challenging statements for us all, for helping us with the intention to make sense of the deception that we are in this operation, in this season 9, we'll call it. Anyway, stay safe, everyone. It's morning here, Saturday. I'm going to get myself some breakfast. Stay safe, and may God be with you.